Hey everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker, and I have a very special guest with me, Jason Vanular from Vanular Law.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we actually just recently started chatting because I sell a bunch in your area where your office is at, and I'm actually surprised we haven't done much business up until this point.
Well, it's nice to get the invite and appreciate the offer to have me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we met up and I felt like we had a good chemistry and then we have a good conversation. So I wanted to share it with people that are watching my channel, a lot of cool things. So I'm going to just kind of get right into it. There's a couple of things I want to cover with you. One of the, and it all kind of revolves around what's kind of happening in the market here right now. I do a lot of videos about like the Landlord-Tenant board and like how I call it the tenant protection agency, because like the tenants obviously have all the rights in this whole thing over here. But like, you know, I guess like what I'm gonna ask you is that like if somebody sells their house, because I'm gonna come into this issue here right now, is like when somebody's selling their house and it's tenant occupied and they've actually accepted an offer, it's moving forward. In the agreement, it says that the seller is gonna serve notice to the tenant to move out in 60 days and, you know, provide a copy of that document. What happens on closing day if this tenant decides they don't want to move out?
So what I'm seeing with, you know, rent control properties and people in good rental situations is it's hard for them to find comparable properties right now because the demand. So a lot of people, you know, unfortunately say to their landlord or the seller, yeah, no problem, I'll get out. They sign an N11 agreement, voluntary agreement to end the tenancy. I'll leave by that date. Things change in between. Maybe there's some tensions between the parties, showings, things like that. They don't leave. Or an N12 comes up, they don't leave. Closing comes and they can't get them out. Well, you're stuck because as a seller, you agreed to vacant possession. And now you're stuck with a tenant in the property. Yeah. Buyer can't move in. Buyer now has costs, moving costs, you know, housing costs, moving trucks, all that stuff, right? Nowhere to live. So they can actually like proceed against you for their damages for breaching the contract, not giving them vacant possession. And you as a landlord are stuck because you relied on that tenant to leave and they signed an agreement. And now you're stuck going through the tenancy board, as you call it, the tenant protection agency, which they're backed up 6 months to a year. Yeah. So before you get heard and the eviction and a sheriff in there, it's a long process. So now you're stuck, you know, potentially owing damages to your buyer. Luckily in all our deals, this buyers understand they're reasonable. You're able to work something out. Yeah. Sometimes an occupancy agreement, they live in the main floor while the tenant's in the basement, don't technically own the house yet. Yeah. Things like that. But, you know, sometimes you can't work it out and the deal dies. So it's unfortunate, but a lot of tenants are professional tenants, we call them. Correct. And now they're bribing landlords saying, hey, you want me out? 50, 60 grand and I'll leave. That much, eh? Yeah. This what you've heard people ask for this kind of money? In commercial deals, I've had it over 60 grand. Wow. Yeah. And so just because we're on this right now, what would be a way that someone can actually protect themselves? Get the tenant out before you sell. That would be the best approach. Even if you have to carry it for 2 months empty, it's much better than the risk of damages from a buyer. You know, and the liability that could follow. Yeah. And you also said so my understanding what the N11 is like, it's a mutual agreement. Yep. And so is that enforceable then? Like it is if they don't honor it. Is it? But you still have to go through the tenancy board to honor it and get that, you know. So it's not any faster to enforce that versus. It's about the same process. The same thing. You still have to go get and it's getting a bit better. I think they've hired more members at the board level now and it's getting a bit better because there was a huge backlog in COVID. Yeah. Because people weren't paying rent, frankly, because they didn't have incomes, right? So that was happening, and so it was very backed up. But I think now it's sort of getting a bit better. We're seeing hearing dates a little bit more than 4 to 6 months. Okay. So better. So that's better than 12 months. It's better. Yeah. Yeah, but then you got to get the order, then you got to get, you know, the eviction, and then the sheriff's got to go in and boot them out. So all that takes time too. So like roughly how long do you see, like the last one we have a paralegal managing at the office. I think she said it was 6 to 12 months, roughly from start to finish. Wow. Yeah. So you could be on the hook of getting no rent, managing your own expenses at the same time. Yep. And once you serve them that notice, usually they stop paying rent. Of course. Yeah. Why would they? They're not incentivized at all. Sue them and garnish their wages for 10 years. and if there is anything that you can kind of get out of them at that point too, right? Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's a definite problem in the market right now. Another one I wanted to talk to you about is that mortgage renewals, right? So there are a bunch of people during COVID that got rates of 1%, 2%, whatever it was. And now you're going back and you're having to qualify, if you're lucky, at like 5.5 points. And maybe you can qualify, but for some reason you can't afford those monthly payments anymore. Like, how are people dealing with this? You know, unfortunately, in most cases, I see people taking out second mortgages to bridge the gap. and to make some other payments.
Yeah.
And if they have enough equity in their houses, but that's very risky approach, high interest rates, and I don't recommend it. I usually tell them to sell.
Yeah, because
Can't
it just
afford your
feels
house,
like
sell.
yeah, it feels like you're just digging yourself further, right?
deeper
Like if you
hole.
can't afford it up front, why get into a second?
And they have all these transactional charges, the second lenders, and really you're just biding time, trying to get the market to recover.
Yeah,
Hoping for, downside interest rates so you can kind of lower some payments through that period.
yeah,
But no one has a crystal ball. We don't know where the interest rate environment's going to go. And
true.
you see a lot of personal debts, people carrying, payments on lines of credit, cash money, all these different places. Because they're just stuck. They're stuck in expensive mortgages that renewed at a high rate.
Yeah,
And no one really expected this rate to increase so fast.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when it comes down to like even people that are closing on properties right now, like what are you seeing? Like, are you seeing a lot of issues? Because I know when like the interest rate started to change, we were seeing a lot of people that were not able to qualify, and it was like, I don't know, 1 in 10 deals that you were definitely going to have a problem closing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the house was oversold and sometimes the realtors, they don't have all the information at hand when those offers come in. Obviously, people sometimes put financial conditions in, but things can change. People can lose jobs. The stress test, is pretty high, obviously, and if interest rates increase through that period of the closing period, then again, it's gonna be harder to qualify for the loan. But this year's been an interesting year. We've had some deals fall through. We've had a lot of extensions. It's some people just unfortunately can't get the loan they thought they could. All right, so if the deal falls through. I'd say it's only still up to 5% of our deals per year, though.
Okay,
It's not as high as you'd think it would be. Most close, and we work it through.
Yeah, so you're not seeing them completely fall apart.
Yeah,
Maybe you're getting an
a handful,
extension,
like 5
or
to 10 deals a year, probably.
okay, so you're not seeing it really bad anymore.
No,
or it's
you're just seeing people coming into me being like, "Wow, I wish I didn't buy this house," because they look at their mortgage payment.
Yeah,
And
they have sticker shock
even
right
I
there.
look at it and
Yeah.
I say, "Wow, like on an $800,000 mortgage, like you're paying more than people were paying on like $1.3 million mortgages a year ago." So, and when they see that, they go, "Holy."
So it's basically just not being informed enough, I guess.
Yeah, and I think they get caught in the buying process, right? They want that house. They think about financing later.
Yeah.
Right.
They could see themselves living in it and get carried away and sign off on a deal like that.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening at this point right now? Like, say someone does like purchase a property and they're not able to actually close on it. Like, what does that look like to somebody? Like,
So your deposit's forfeited at law. You get held in breach of the agreement, and the seller will then relist and try to recover their damages in the market on a resale.
Yeah.
Anything above that deposit, they can sue for any out-of-pocket costs. So people just have this, myth that, I'm just going to walk away, take my deposit. I always have to tell them, no, you could be on the hook for more.
Yeah. Also, like talking about that reminds me of a story of like I ran into somebody that basically said, "Oh, well, I did that offer or whatever, but I'm just not going to drop off the deposit."
Yeah, and that's another myth because, the offer is binding when you sign it. It's got consideration, which is the seal on it, and there's witnesses involved, and you can't just walk away from a deal. Contractually, they've got you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've also another misconception I've heard with people is that they're like, okay, well, they sold it at the same price, so they have to give me my deposit back.
No, the deposit's forfeit at law. It's meant to secure the performance of that agreement. So even if they sell at the same price or a windfall, if they make more money on resale, that deposit's still forfeited.
Because I actually had a deal, I think last year or the year before that, like the buyer defaulted, like there was nothing we could do after a bunch of extensions. We ended up putting the property back on the market. And I think we got about the same number, maybe even $5,000 less, but based on what their deposit was, my seller actually walked away with a way better deal. Took the whole family to Disneyland.
I had some windfalls for sure. And in the good markets, like, people made some money on those situations and,
on the deals falling apart.
I mean, sadly, it's the game you play.
For sure.
Yeah.
This all kind of leads me to a hot topic I get lots of calls about now is pre-construction. Pre-construction. People bought properties 2 years, 3, 4 years ago that are coming up to close right now. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, we're seeing that. It's very difficult. Condo market in Toronto, as you know, is really bad. So new build condos in Toronto, people are really struggling to close on. They're all underappraising 20, 30%.
Wow.
I'd say on average, depending on the year of purchase.
Sure.
There's not the rental incomes there anymore to carry. because rental amounts are going down every quarter in Toronto. Interest rates are going up. So you're seeing a lot of people dumping condos. So new build condos and investments are just less attractive, especially in downtown.
Yeah.
So much supply.
Yeah.
And so those are having a lot of trouble. And then just new build houses outside of, I'd say, immediate GTA, kind of smaller towns, they're really underappraising. I had some in Wasaga Beach underappraised, 500 grand.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was able to negotiate an abatement of multiple hundred thousands to get that closed because even the builder's inventory house wasn't selling and it was lower priced for over a year.
Yeah.
Newcastle, there's a couple builders over there, 2.8 plus, 5-bedroom houses, and they're appraising around just shy of 2 mil, 1.9,
Wow.
800K gaps. So, you're seeing
$800,000 gap in
so
closing.
you're seeing parents stepping in, helping out, collateralizing their homes, taking off line of credits to help the kids out. Because you're talking 20% deposits on average on these houses. So you're talking big money down.
Yeah.
That could be forfeited, like $500-600 grand, right?
So they're obviously trying to save that.
Yeah, 100%. And just ride the storm out and close, right?
Yeah. Right now, what would you kind of recommend to people that are getting involved with pre-construction? And I'll tell you a little bit of, because we just did another video before this, and it's for me, I'm not actually seeing the value. I've bought a bunch of pre-construction stuff before. And the way that I looked at it is that I look into the market and I'm like, hey, resale is here, new construction is here. For the most part, I've bought all of my pre-construction stuff below the current resale market or at the worst case but never above what the resale market is. And that's what I'm finding right now. If you're going to go buy new construction, for the most part, it's above the resale market.
I'd agree with that statement. I'm telling most clients you can get good deals in resale right now based on the state of the market and, set aside a renovation budget if there's things you want to fix. Yeah. But that way you get a finished basement, you get landscaping, maybe a pool.
Even window coverings, because that adds up.
Yeah. So you can get basic things, which, builders don't do. Yeah. Right. People like the new flashy house and the Terry-on warranty. And for sure. Oh, I live in this new house, but at the end of the day, you're seeing better deals right now in the resale market. Yeah. And kind of around your office and that area I work in Seton, that's what I'm telling people is even when you go to look at the builder versus what the resale is there, the resale is cheaper and you're looking at a house that's a year or two old. So it's not even that much different. And what you mentioned, you're getting a bunch of these extra things like the appliances and whatnot. It's already there. So that's savings. And I'm also telling people you're kind of hedging your bets, right? It's such an uncertain environment moving forward that we don't know where things are actually going. Yep. So it's how could you commit to something at a future value at this point right now? And don't get me wrong, there's still deals on new builds to be had because some people are in tough spots and they can't sell. So we're seeing assignments below price and they're just giving up their deposits. And so, that's a deal for someone who thinks the value's there. Correct. Again, it's a gamble every time. 100%. Because you don't know where the market's going to be when it closes. But that there are, I'm not going to say there's no deals in new build market, just not like it was. Correct. Yeah, you're right. And that actually reminds me because I'm part of this Facebook group of assignment sales. And it's first it started off by saying, okay, we're going to, discount it by X amount or whatever. Then it was just take over the thing. I'm going to walk away from my deposit. And now I'm even seeing some people say, okay, we're going to kick in an extra 50K or 100K just for you to take this off. So they're already losing their deposit plus this extra money just because they can't get to closing. Yeah. And they're doing that just to, avoid the closing costs, right? Because they don't have to pay those out of pocket and land transfer tax and all that stuff. And they're, avoiding the lawsuit from the builder on resale. Perfect. Yeah. And I think that the builder, ultimately, if they come after you, they pretty much have a strong case. It's pretty much a slam dunk, breach of contract. You signed something and agreed to close at a certain price. And it is what it is. You're playing a speculative game as a new build buyer, right? Could go either way. So if you are a new build buyer right now and this is happening, because I always tell people to think forward of what you're actually doing, right? So if they're thinking that, hey, I got to close in 3 months or 6 months and this is not going to be possible for me to do, what do you think that they should do right now to try to mitigate the risk? At this point, if you can find an assignee buyer to take it over, that's your best bet. Yep. The CRA does heavily tax the income, personal income, not capital gains because you never lived in the property. Sure. And you got HST on your profits. So you're not going to make much. But if you can just flip that thing and not make any money and get out of it, that's your best way to go. Yeah. You get your deposits back that way. Do you think that there's any value in trying to talk to the builder? If you can't get an assignment or anything? Usually the builders are pretty stern and they'll just hold you to the deal up until the day of closing. And, unless it's a known project that's really underwater, like some of those areas I told you about outside of GTA, Wasaga Beach, kind of anything over a 2-hour commute is really getting hit hard because people are being called back to the office.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my correlation in my mind. It could be other reasons.
Sure.
But I just think, people at the time during COVID said, oh, I want a big house. I can handle the commute a day or two a week.
Yeah.
Now the office is like, come on back.
Everyone's got to come back. Yeah.
And so now these areas are getting hit the hardest.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe part of the reason why they're getting the biggest valuation hits.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Awesome. I think I kind of covered my whole market thing. There's one other thing I wanted to ask you, okay? And I know even with other realtors, they find it funny that I put these clauses in my resale purchase agreements for my buyer. So the standard on a freehold would be is you're putting a finance condition, a home inspection condition, and I actually standard put in a condition for a lawyer review of the agreement. And I get so much pushback on this condition, even though I'm like, dude, like I still have a 5-day on home inspection, 5-day on mortgage. If you think I'm going to walk away, I'm going to walk away on that, not on a lawyer review. So how important do you think it is for somebody to do a lawyer review on a resale purchase agreement?
I mean, lawyers are deal killers. I tend not to be, but we have to explain the risks to our client. And obviously one of the risks is sell first before you buy. Yeah. Right. So I would tell a client that every single day based on the market, because you don't know if your house is going to sell by the time that closing comes around. So, I mean, I don't want to be a deal killer, but I also have obligations on my side to my clients like you do as a realtor. So, I mean, the rest of the agreements are pretty standard. Usually it's minor things that I would see that most realtors can handle. And they're standard OREA agreements off the shelf. But, the biggest items are, is the square footage right that you're warranting in your agreement? Have you checked your survey? Have you made sure everything's working in your house before closing? Because otherwise you'll be on the hook at closing if it doesn't work. Things like that. It's just more common sense things that some people just want to hear from you. But the biggest is, I'd say, sell first before you buy. Right.
And I know I keep saying one more thing, but I got one more because we just talked about this. So the warranting of the things when you actually go to close, like what I do with my guys is that I try to put in 3 visits on a resale. So like, come, let's go 2 times, anytime, like, let me know, we'll do measurements, show your family. Last visit, I'm like, I want to do as closest to the closing as possible. And if I can get some kind of guarantee or some kind of notice that the seller has actually moved out of the property so I can see it in the best condition before I receive the property. What if something is wrong with the appliance? And let's say it's after the closing. Like, what can you do? I tell people that you're out of luck.
I mean, the warranty survives closing, but it's only the state of the property at closing. Right. So you have to, document, timestamp, video evidence that it didn't work on closing. So you have that evidence. I usually tell clients, go get a contractor in to investigate repair. If you can get a repair done, what's the cost? So I can kind of ballpark it to the other lawyer. Or if it has to be replaced, it has to be replaced. Find a comparable. And people think, oh, I get a brand new shiny fridge because it's not holding temperature. Well, no, you get a comparable depreciated fridge of a similar value, which may be a used fridge. So it's a tough discussion with people, but it's like, you don't get that shiny brand new fridge. You might get like a white ugly fridge, but it's similar style, right? And it works. So, I mean, other than that, if the people don't want to pay the cost to repair it or replace it under that warranty, you got to sue them in court, breach a contract.
But that's also a pain, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to go after someone for a stove or a microwave or something else like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen petty claims come in where I'm like, no way he's going to sue over that. And I play hardball and the claim hits the client's desk for like a hot water tank worth $800. But it's the principle that matters sometimes and people feel wronged and that's their avenue for a remedy. They go to court and claim breach of contract. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. See, like the more you say, the more things I think of, like even a hot water tank, like a rental. Like we've even had situations where it wasn't indicated on the listing. I never put it in as a rental item because nobody indicated. Even there was changes made to the contract, but that agent still didn't come back and say, hey, it's a rental item. They've closed on it and they've had to basically pay it out. Because hasn't been noted.
Yeah, it's a common issue. Most people forget to tell their realtors because it's attached to their Enbridge bill.
True.
I've had that so many times and people just think it's part of their gas bill and they don't realize in the back page it says hot water tank rental charges. They just don't know. They just think it's their gas bill. And then they never tell the realtor and then they don't know. So they don't put it in the listing. They don't put it in the agreement.
You know, I always find that weird. Like when you buy a house, you're getting a furnace with it. Like I don't understand why you're not just getting a hot water tank that you own at the same time.
That's the biggest scam in Ontario. If you ask me, these hot water tank rentals, the government just passed that you have to delete them off title. You can't have liens anymore for them.
That's actually a good thing.
It's a good thing because they're taking advantage of so many elderly people. They knock on your door and say, oh, let me check your tank out. And then you sign a contract. Replacing that, and then they stick a lien on your title.
Even some of them I've seen is like $200 a month. And it's like, wow, man, like that's a deal breaker. That's what, like you know, 35K of a mortgage right there.
Yeah. It's over 10 years. You paid the tank 8 times over.
That's insane. Insane. Jason, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy schedule, but I appreciate you taking the time to have this chat with us. And I hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate
guys, we're going to have Jason's contact information on the screen. So if you guys are looking for an awesome lawyer to help you with your closing or other matters, I would advise you guys contact Jason. Until next time, guys, remember one thing, get Cabani, get sold.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.